So, welcome back, friends. I am sharing a very interesting learning technique with you guys that's going to help you learn any language or anything for the matter of fact in a very in-depth way and in a way that it stays with you for a very long time, and it's going to open up the doors to something amazing in your life. Now, this is a concept that I came across in this book called The Way of Nagomi. This is a book written by Ken Mogi, and it's on the Japanese principle or Japanese philosophy of living life kind of in the middle, in a balance. With a balance is what this book is all about. And there's a concept in that book that he talks about called SODOKU. Now, this is different than Sudoku, which is the mathematical puzzle that you'll find in newspapers, etc. This is Sodoku, which is simple reading, the concept of simple reading, which Japanese kids are actually introduced to at the age of around 5 or 6, and they're introduced to this technique even though they don't understand anything what's happening. So I'll give you an example of what the technique is, and then we'll go from there. So they take a book or a text, so text as in usually a book, a scripture or something like that, usually like Confucius's writings, which is like the Chinese philosopher that they teach that in Japanese schools. But they take a piece of work, right, a book or something that's going to stay with a person for life. So for example, there are certain books that we can learn from throughout our lives, even if we are 10 years old or if we are 50 years old. If we read that piece again, we are going to learn something. So these could be religious scriptures, these could be non-religious philosophical scriptures as well, Confucius's writings, Marcus Aurelius Stoic philosophy. So usually tends to be around philosophy or religion or spirituality. So the point is, you pick a book that book is going to be valid for you throughout your life. So you pick that book and you start reading from that book out loud. And usually it's done with a teacher with them, and then the kid comes home in their living room, they practice that. So there are three things that we need to keep in mind, and I'll also give you an idea of why I feel this is extremely important for language learning. So let's say you are learning Japanese, English. In this case, I'm assuming you are here for English learning. So I have this book right here, the top book here. This is Asimil book, German with Ease, right? So this is probably the same principle that I'm using to learn German and Japanese. So my goal is to learn German and Japanese in 2024, and the goal here is, with this, even with this book, I read it out loud. They have a German version and then they have an English translation, but I read the German version out loud. I'll read the same way I'll do it with Japanese as well. The point is, I don't understand anything of what I'm speaking, but it opens the doors for my brain to get ready for what is to come, to get exposed to that language. So number one point is, how this helps is, it exposes you to a language. You might not understand any word, you might not understand the meaning, but the point is, you should see it and speak it, right? And that's extremely important. And if you are at a level where you are watching this video, this is not going to be extremely new for you. You are going to be able to speak things clearly. You're going to probably also going to be able to understand things what you're reading, especially if you're learning English in this case. But for example, for in my case with German, most of the words I won't understand what it means, but I'm going to say it out loud and I'm going to go through the book. Now this is Asimil, so this is not really a text that's going to be with me for life, but you can pick up a scripture or one of your favorite books, right? Could be Harry Potter, for example. Let's say maybe you want to pick up fiction, and that's a book that you want to read every year, once a year, stuff like that. So number one, it opens our brain up to something new. It opens our brain up to the sounds, to the sight of that language or whatever that concept is in this case. With when they do it with kids, the point is also that they learn kanji and all of those things, so that they also understand reading Japanese. So that's one. Number two, which is, and I feel a very interesting point that he mentions, is that this whole exposure is also to be done in a relaxed environment. So he talks about that most of the kids in Japan, because the houses tend to be relatively small in Japan, most of the kids, when they learn in a living room where the dad might be drinking beer and there would be a TV on, or maybe if the dad doesn't have the TV on, the mom will be out and about cooking something. The sibling might be playing their Nintendo or their video games, and the kid, rather than in fact sitting alone in a silence boxed out room, they are in a relaxed environment when they are learning something. In fact, he also mentions that research actually tells that kids are able to retain more information if they are in a, and not just kids, even adults, people are able to retain more information if they learn in a relaxed environment, and they don't learn in a very tense and focused environment. So for some things it makes sense, for most of the things you can go with the relaxed environment. So I think that's also very important, where he talks about like balance and Nagomi with everything that's going on is extremely important with this. So simple reading is something that I think you can pick up. Now, how do you apply this whole concept, this 5.5 6 minute video, to your English learning? So what I'll suggest is, pick up one text or one book that is in English, and that's a book that you are going to possibly, let's say, read once every 2 years throughout your life. So could be a religious scripture, as I said, could be a philosophy. Like for example, in my case, I do spend a lot of time around Stoic philosophy. I might not read it as regularly as possible, but I spend a lot of time. So if I was to follow the SODOKU in learning English, I would start with, let's say, Stoic philosophy with, let's say, maybe Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. And he also says that rather than going with a lot of translations, go with the core text, read it out loud. So for example, if I had, let's say, let me see. Yeah, all right. I have a couple of my notes here. So I'm going to read it out loud. On-site headline and 2 sentence summary above the fold copy. So I would read and I would talk it out and I would speak it out loud. And the goal here is for my brain to get ready with that. And this is going to really, really help you in speaking skills, understanding skills, but also your exposure to the language, your exposure to that information. And it's going to slowly, with repetition, build in your brain. And as time passes, what is going to happen is you're going to open up a lot of lessons. Every single time you go through that piece of text, you're going to open up a ton of lessons for yourself. And that's the key. That's the way of SODOKU, or simple reading, that we are going to use and try to learn English. Do let me know your thoughts on that. Do let me know how your experience goes with this SODOKU method of learning. And I'll see you guys next time. Hope this video helps. Till then, bye and take care.